Welcome back, everyone. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. We are here live in San Francisco at Dreamforce 2025 with my co-host Gemma Allen from New York City with theCUBE. Of course, we're bringing all the action in San Francisco, connecting Wall Street and Silicon Valley. This panel, conversations with experts. We have a financial analyst, a great Substack writer, and of course, incubating a hedge fund. More on that later, and Holger's here, CUBE alumni, veteran. Guys, we're day one in at Dreamforce. Mark Benioff, it's the circus like always. Welcome to theCUBE. Raphaelle, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, it's a pleasure.
Holger, I'm going to go to you first because you've seen these many events. They trot out everything, they got the announcements. What's your take of this agentic roadmap from Salesforce? A lot of new names.
Right.
Data 360,
yes.
Some renaming of things.
Yes.
But it's a multi-year process. We've been briefed before, so you've been briefed on all the information, extract all the signal, tell us what's going on.
I think it was a great keynote because it was short, it didn't go too long. Benioff shared in the Q&A, they cut it down, which was great. It was only about product. The only thing I didn't like, it was not about the other products in the background, which customers are using. We all know agentic AI is only as good as the APIs in the background, and pretty much all the vendors are acting like it's all about AI. And we don't have to upgrade the background business processes, right? Which never happened, right? So that was a big miss from my perspective. We also saw, if you missed that, the launch into the ERP space because there's now Agentforce for supply chain management, right? Which was something which was kind of not surprised about IT ticket service management, not surprised about HR, we've seen that before. So overall, a good keynote, short and sweet.
Raphaelle, you're going to be on theCUBE as a contributor, but it should be noted you got a great Substack, decoding discontinuity. You're incubating a hedge fund, you got a kind of a hybrid, you're kind of a media writer because of Substack, you got the financial analyst background, you're incubating a hedge fund, and you're an advisor to CEOs, Fortune 50 companies. So if you're the advisor, you're the conciliary, you're the consultant to Mark Benioff, what would you say to him? Good show, positioning okay, are things hanging together, a lot of naming, trying to reposition. I mean, Salesforce is now called Dreamforce, now you got Agentforce, do they change the name of their company? I mean, Elon suggested they should change the name to the company. Really? What's your take on Salesforce? And I mean, they're hugely successful. They print money. But what's your take on them as a company right now?
So I think my first take was that they should change their ticker. It makes no sense that Salesforce is CRM anymore because that's just not what they are at all. And I think when you come out of this keynote, and even without coming out, like just in the keynote, you say to yourself, Salesforce has perfectly understood that agentic AI is a new paradigm, and that's been clear from day one. And we need to give them the credit for that because they were the first, and Mark was the first, to really get that, which is super important. Today, Salesforce is, for me, an agentic AI orchestration platform, able to go not just in the CRM space, but to the broader enterprise orchestration landscape. And the names that we have all over here of the agentic enterprise, that's a very good qualification term for Salesforce. So it's like, I think what is not clear yet is that the distinction we have between horizontal application software infrastructure, that doesn't mean anything anymore in the agentic world. Like you need to rebuild new categories, and Salesforce has been doing that over the past year. It's just that no one knows that yet. So that's what I would give as an advice to Mark. Like, let's get the market to understand what is actually happening because it's super powerful if executed well.
Okay, you know the old expression, you can't move an aircraft carrier on a dime. It has to take some time to kind of move. Do you think that they're making progress? Gemma, you feel free to weigh in too on this because we see companies in New York all the time on the financial side. Sometimes you're so focused on EBITDA, hitting the 30-day shot clock, even if they move to 6 months, it's a different conversation. Folks, tell me, what are they doing right or wrong? Are they moving fast enough? I mean, we're in an age of highly acceleration. Road to superintelligence is here. I mean, everyone's coming out of the woodwork, so can they move fast enough? That's the question.
Well, first, I think a lot of people are quite unfair to CRM, if we take this ticker. Enterprise AI adoption and agentic AI adoption is something that is an architectural redefinition of a business. So you're changing the architecture, your tech architecture, you're changing your business model architecture, and by doing that, you're changing the business model of your client's architecture. So you have three changes when you think about this. this is not as quick as the adoption of ChatGPT. You cannot compare, like, oh, Salesforce is not able to price Agentforce. But actually, looking at private company data, it's one of the fastest adoption rates that we're seeing. But no one is saying that. So I'm not saying that just to give the credit to Salesforce, but to say, wait a minute, and let's really consider the paradigm that is at stake. So and I would also add that they're actually in a very good position in the sense that they master the customer data, not the ID data, not the HR data. So since they have like access to customer data, they're actually super well positioned to be building that orchestration platform. So it's all going to boil to like a question of execution.
I'm going to go to Holger on this one because it's a little German reference. It's actually wasn't planned, but George Gilbert was on the earlier intro segment, and he quoted a story from 30 years ago when Hasso-Plattner was when SAP was rolling out their stuff. All the people who made the best little module for SAP, he said, we're going to burn you guys all into the ground. Meaning because SAP ended up doing that. So, as an example, they ran the table. SAP had a run there. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but look at SAP back in the old days. Now Salesforce might have an opportunity to have that platform. What's your take on the app side? Because the software market has changed. I'm sure you don't disagree with Raphaelle on the fact that the whole world's changed, it's a new category, but the data is the same, still people are going to use apps. Correct. So what is your view on the app side? Is it a burn everyone to the ground moment with the platform?
No, I think to quote more present people, Satya Nadella is wrong that agents are the end of SaaS, because agents run...
Are the end of SaaS?
Are not, he said they are the end of SaaS,
okay.
Right? That's his quote, right? I don't think he's right, because agents leverage business APIs in the background, which are delivered via SaaS. So, and the interesting thing, I like the colleague Gilbert reference to Hasso-Plattner's era, because that was the first time that you put all the data of an enterprise on a client server system. Right, on a data level part. And the similar thing is 2 years ago, Salesforce had the innovation here with Genie, remember, to bring data real time, under second in the data cloud. And we all know, you can ask a preschooler today, what makes AI? It's the data, right? So Salesforce for the first time has a coherent platform strategy, building a data platform, then an agentic framework, right? Let's put in perspective, last year, they did something unheard of in the enterprise software industry. They upgraded 1,000 customers before coming here. Expecting them to build one agent, right? The customers on average build 10 agents here. This is why it was so easy to build them, right? But never ending, I mean, I'm doing this since almost, I wouldn't tell how long, right? but never, you announce stuff at conferences. You don't give something live to customers and they do stuff at the conference, unheard of. So Salesforce has about 1 year in the enterprise software space to build agentic applications on their framework. And they're using that and it shows, right? They have day two problems like observability of agents. Right? Look at the competition, there's nobody announcing observability of agents because they're just launching their agentic framework and their first packaged agents. There's analytics on agents, and the interesting thing is there's also still the normal Salesforce speed happening, which traditionally, right, we can make the joke here, right? Mark would come back from Hawaii, he read an IBM report, and then 2 years later, Salesforce product development would have what he was talking about.
Yeah, take that hill.
We see the 2 years coming right now with the data.com becoming agents, with Tableau becoming agents, with MuleSoft becoming agents. So there's still some normal Salesforce
agentified as infrastructure.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a good question because like Andy Jassy once said to me on theCUBE, many reinvents ago, I think like 2015, he said, John, you know, when you're doing something compelling, you got to be prepared to be misunderstood for a very long time and be comfortable with that. And some people aren't. They read the press clippings, they want to, oh, you got to get an agent. So the question for you guys is, what is the most misunderstood thing about Salesforce today? Given that you guys, I agree with you on all your points about them being early. What's the biggest misunderstanding?
And if I can add one thing to that question too, like what are the blind spots? Like there's so much conversation about speed and agility and adoption. What are you talking to Fortune CEOs about? Like what are the blind spots that nobody's speaking about publicly?
So I think that Salesforce in this agentic AI paradigm has two modes that one they spoke about at the conference this morning, another one not. The first is what I call the context modes. Do your agents have access to the right context to actually make a decision that is an informed decision and that is going to produce a result because it has the right context? So that's a very critical mode, and Salesforce has that, and Slack is actually a super strong engine in that, and they were very smart to block the access to Slack, by the way, a couple of months ago, because they understand, and they already understood that that is a very strong mode, number one. Number two, they have a workflow mode, meaning they understand like how business outcomes are delivered because they have seen that over and over the years, and so they're able to say, well, you're building an agentic system, we know like what's going to work, what's not going to work, because we've been doing that for 30 years, not in an agentic AI world, but before. And so when you add both of these aspects, you can become an orchestrator. Now, Mark said this morning, we're not an orchestrator, our clients are an orchestrator. I completely agree. It's the end client, like PepsiCo, Williams-Sonoma, FedEx, that were the clients that were mentioned this morning, that are going to be the orchestrators. And Salesforce is going to be the platform that enables these clients to be the orchestrators of agents. So that's my view of those two modes that are not.
What's your take on them being misunderstood in blind spots?
Yeah, I don't see them so much to get as the orchestrator, right? They're an applications company. They're building agents to power the applications, to preserve the applications, get their backends. The misunderstanding is that Salesforce is only a CRM or CX company. They're a platform company, which is going into different areas and needs to grow. They're getting flagged from ServiceNow as an example, as another platform company from that perspective. So you have to look at the market as platform companies, application companies, and application companies with an AI framework. And the competition is to build agents as fast as possible, as reliable as possible.
Would you say, Dave, George and I were riffing on this with Gemma earlier, are they a data infrastructure company? Or what? I mean, what would you call them?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
The growth is coming from the platform side, right? For the longest part, remember? It used to be sales, service, marketing. They would only have the applications. Then all of a sudden, with the different acquisitions they've done, the platform part was bigger than sales, the largest part of the business, which is now service. So it would break it out. But their infrastructure platform part is a big, big part, which is a good preparation because we live, remember we had this conversation before, John, we live in the era of business best practice uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly how you're going to run an enterprise in 2 to 3 years, which is hell for any standard software vendor because they want to build it for everybody the same way. And if you don't know what the same way is, you can't build it. So they're all waiting. So everybody's becoming a
This is the death of general purpose software. Basically, we're in an era of transition, not death.
I think it will be a swing. It will be a swing.
I think
Slow death.
We're in an era of like category redefinition. That's why I strongly disagree with, and I think Mark would disagree with, Salesforce is not a data infrastructure company, but Salesforce is not either like a pure horizontal application and certainly not like a pure CRM player. It's like, what are they in this new agentic paradigm? That is the question, and that's what we need to figure out. And then we will see, well, is that a platform? I really think they are a platform and they should be a platform because that's the only viable economic outcome in the story. But the name and the framing of the category is still to be built, and they actually have an opportunity to build that.
Okay, so what ticker should they use? Okay, you're a consultant.
Gotta copyright it though.
She's like, I want to get paid for this.
I
better get copyright on this.
AI.
Right, so I need to think about it. Like it would have agentic, it would have orchestration, it would have enterprise, so I need to mix both of these three terms and come up with something.
One thing I think is really interesting about Salesforce is it's a flywheel, right? Like it's got an incredible ecosystem around it. Like there's been people who have been loyal to the product, loyal to Salesforce for years. And this idea that, you know, now in this agentic world, everyone's a developer, that developers are more creative minded, they're more, you know, they're artisans of industry, etc. It kind of shifts a little bit though, the ethos that's been so fundamental in building, you know, the brand loyalty and the identity of this company, right? So how do you guys think about that? Like how do you imagine 5 years from now that will change? And how do you think you continue to foster like huge loyalty in a world where everything is a little bit, you know, more ambiguous?
Well, they encouraged this morning their clients to vibe code their own agents, which was one of the standout features of the keynote. So I think like this is super complicated from an enterprise AI architecture, like from a tech architecture. If you're working in a software company today, it's perhaps the most fascinating job ever. Like it changes every single day. There's new research, there's new frameworks. So I don't think that the developers are going to be bored in any way. I think it's just the nature of what is being done is very different, in the same way that our work as humans is going to be very different. We're going to be supervising agents more and more, and we will still be working, hopefully, but we will be working in a completely different way. And so I think R&D teams are going to be operating like that.
You think vibe coding, what they're proposing is going to be okay? Enterprise, you said, is very complicated. I mean, I vibe coded on the weekend once in the summer. I did 4 or 5 apps I wanted, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I did a Postgres database, but like my APIs didn't work. I'm going to the beach. Like I didn't have time like, to wire it up. That's just me. I'm the lazy guy, but now enterprise, it's like, you can't just vibe code your way into the enterprise. I guess I'm skeptical.
Well, it's all about enterprise acceleration. What can make an enterprise move faster, become more agile, and get things done in software and code. So everything which will give developers, business users who are developing a leg up to get that automation that they need to own their automation destiny on the business user side, right? Because there's things which will never be built by standard software vendors. There will never be an IT budget.
Does AI wire up those not brittle points, those key glue layers or glue connections?
Definitely, right? It will help, right? But it will be running around with scissors, right? You can hurt yourself, or you can do wonderful things, right? So it's going to be with caution, and CIOs will look at it, and CISOs will look at stuff, right? So we will see how that will pan out, but we can't stop the technology progress and the capability. And to your question, who's going to be around in 3, 4, 5 years, is who's going to provide value to enterprises who have to move faster, become more agile. It's very simple.
Raphaelle, I want to ask you about your hedge fund you're incubating. You mentioned that, tease that out. Obviously that's a good opportunity. Financial markets we've been covering since I've been at the NYC for a year. Gemma lives in New York, now on the team. I've always been curious how they squint through EPS forecasts. Everyone's been sandbagging earnings for go back, it's not even an art anymore, it's obvious. But product-led growth, category shifts, things we were just talking about, are what the financial analysts are starting to look at. What's your view of how Wall Street and the global financial markets will look at this? You got stable coins, you got token economics, real world assets on chain, a lot of things going on in the financial infrastructure as well. What's your view of valuations of AI, if business model changes, one little small tweak could drive revenue and cost efficiencies that could change the balance sheet and income statement?
You haven't even said Bitcoin. So.
Yeah, you can also go to crypto, we'll go to that later. But just in general, valuation, look at the market sideways, options are up, NVIDIA, NVIDIA, CoreWeave, Nebius, Lambda, it's a whole crazy market right now.
Oh, sure. So I've dedicated my life to understanding what this is about. I obsess on this topic like every single minute of the day, right? So first, we need to put companies in 2 categories. The AI enablers, so the companies like NVIDIA, AMD, OpenAI that are actually enabling this whole AI build out, so they respond to different rules. And the AI adopters, so all the AI companies that are in software and in real world companies also. I think that AI, or agentic AI specifically, is like a real options value. So I've modeled this throughout the whole S&P 500, and I've actually attached an AI optionality, which is the company able to be an orchestrator, or will the company be bypassed in this agentic world, which gives me a score, and I have scored all of the companies according to what is the hidden value or the hidden non-value, like this value, attached to those companies. So if you take Salesforce, Salesforce would be worth 100 as a basis points. Is it worth 120, 150, or is it worth 0? Because it's actually going to be bypassed by AI agents, and it's actually worth nothing, and we know that today. So you can run this in a
So you're tracking The Walking Dead, basically.
Yeah, I'm tracking The Walking Dead, and the goal is to go long and short on the companies that we think are strong orchestrators, and short on companies3which, again, I say, the moat breaks before the revenue.
So your key metric on this index or classification is what? The ability to leverage agents and be an orchestrator? What's the key pivot or variable?
You want to look at, number one, the financial fundamentals. Do they provide you the right adaptability to enter this transition? And then you want to look at your AI optionality, which is a combination of your potential to orchestrate versus your risk of being bypassed. And that's what you want to assess. The financial fundamentals allow you to say you're healthy when you enter the transition, or you're already in a very bad shape and it's probably going to be difficult.
And just quickly, what do you say when people talk about the bubble, when they talk about this idea that AI is almost like a new age Ponzi scheme, right? You've got companies buying from companies, it's a cycle. What are your thoughts on that? Like what's your response to those headlines?
So I would say there's 2 debates. One is on the AI bubble, one is on AI circularity, and I think these 2 should not be conflated because they bear 2 very different risks. So on the AI bubble, it goes back to my point on AI enablers, AI adopters. I think there's big valuations in what is enabling the AI stack. So it's perhaps a bubble. I don't think it's going to pop for the next years because the race to build this is huge, and I don't see this stopping now. I would say we're more like in 1997, not in like 1999 if I was to take a reference.
Google hasn't come yet.
I would say that's my point on number one. I would say that all the companies that have this AI optionality attached to them, I think they're actually undervalued on many aspects. So I think that's a huge opportunity on the public markets right now. And I think that the AI circularity, that revolves a lot around OpenAI. I mean, I think that's a huge problem. Yeah. And I think that I think OpenAI is great. I think that, I mean, they're enabling this technology in many ways, but what we're seeing right now is really dangerous, and we should be cautious because, and what was interesting is that from a stock market perspective, Salesforce announced the partnership with OpenAI. Their stock was down 2% today. What is that about? Figma announces a partnership.
AMD announces it, and Broadcom announces stocks. Shoot.
So I think that was, I was thinking to myself the whole day, that's very unfair. Yeah. Like, they announce something with OpenAI, their stock goes down the day of Dreamforce. Yeah. That's strange.
That is kind of like weird, like really weird, because I think that's very bubblicious. Holger, she's got a good perspective. I like where she's going with that. From an industry analyst perspective, the industry landscape's changing. Like, there's no magic quadrant for what she's talking about, what we're talking about. You can't put them, we can't even put them in a category yet because they're evolving. So there is no Gartner magic quadrant for this. What's the industry landscape look like from your perspective?
I think the industry landscape falls into, like, we have now 4 categories, right? We have infrastructure, platform, software as a service, and some people will play in multiples, like Oracle plays in all of them. We talked about Salesforce playing in platform and in software as a service. Now there's also the AI infrastructure as a service, right? Which runs on top of infrastructure as a service players. And between these 4, we have veritable fights, right? We see the AI vendors coming into the agent building market and building agents, being enterprise ready. They're in the consumer space, right? So it's going to be a fight about who's going to be the better data foundation for everything. It always starts in data. Maybe I'm too much of an enterprise guy, but the enterprise don't go home and say, I don't care what I did yesterday. The auditor's going to come, I have to close the quarter, so you can't forget about that. So who's going to win the data? And this year is the year of the data lakehouses. Every ERP vendor under the sun, except for the one who's in Las Vegas right now, have announced the data lake in the classic form. And the CIOs are going to wake up somewhere in the next 6 months and say, wait a minute, I'm paying for 7 to 9 data lakehouses. I can't afford that, I don't want that. It's my customer, my employee information, there's my liability that, okay, we'll have my ERP going there. Right, we said about flags for Salesforce, right? Will Salesforce have enough gravitas to be the place where you put your data? Then you have your quants doing something and your existing cloud vendors cloud. So 2-3 data lakehouse is going to be the maximum. Yeah. And the fight for the agentic framework, how fast can you build agentic applications, is in full swing, right? Yeah. Obviously the people who have a data platform have an advantage because they understand the data structure and can build it. All the IP vendors says, build with our platform because we understand everything on the data side. Then there's pure best of breeds development tools that always have been development tools. Yeah. I think the rule overall is, it's going to stay the same, right? And sorry for boring. Who has won in enterprise software has always been the one who kept the eyes and the clicks of the user. And maybe the click works into voice or eye movements, maybe it's going to be only the eyes, right? Whoever sees what is being done. Everybody is in the background who's an API, who's not going to get the monetization they deserve and the valuation they deserve.
Well, this has been quite the global conversation. It's a global market. We got Germany, France, and Ireland represented, and America. Yeah. This is truly the market we're in. We're a global platform. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. Again, the world is changing. I guess final question, we'll go around the horn. Letter grade, A, B, C, D, F, report card, Dreamforce, Keynote, Gemma, give them a letter grade.
I'm going to give it a B+.
I would give the same, actually. I would have said B, but I'm more going to B+.
Yeah, B+ to A-.
Oh.
Okay, I'll give him an A- because the CUBE's here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pushing
very objective, of course.
I could review the grade too. Thanks so much, great perspective. Yeah. Again, the experts are weighing in here on theCUBE. Again, the world is changing, massive shift, a lot of value extraction going to happen. Who's going to be on the right side of history will determine new metrics, new analysis coming in every day, very fast on the road to superintelligence at theCUBE. Thanks for watching.